This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Good news, team. We have an exciting new sponsor here at the Crypto Conversation, and well, they are perfectly positioned for today's changing investment environment. Because with market volatility so high and the expected returns for stocks and bonds so low, I tend to agree with the analysts at JP Morgan who have declared that alternative assets are no longer optional. And that is good news for those platforms who can provide access to the top alternative asset classes like Masterworks. Yes, Masterworks.io has solidified itself as the platform for investing in contemporary art. And Masterworks is on a mission to democratize art investing, which is a 1.7 trillion asset class. How do they do this? Well, Masterworks is the first platform to make it possible to purchase shares that represent an investment in multi-million-dollar artworks from iconic artists such as Banksy, Kaws, and Basquiat, all at a price point tailored to you. And since 2017, Masterworks has sold a number of iconic artworks, with each returning over 30% net IRR to investors. Legally, I have to follow that with past performance is no guarantee of future results. Now, if you want to get in early, just go to masterworks.art/cryptoconversations to skip their waitlist. That's masterworks.art/cryptoconversations. And you can see important Regulation A disclosures at masterworks.io/CD. And now it's on with the show. My guest today is Rory Manchee. Rory is the new CEO of Brave New Coin, actually, although he's been at Brave New Coin for a number of years. Welcome to the show, Rory.
Hi, Andy. Great to be here and looking forward to the conversation today.
Great to have you here, Rory. I suppose this is probably overdue because did you realize, I just realized this is, I think, it's going to be something like the 254th episode of the Crypto Conversation, which is, wow,
that's phenomenal. Yeah.
That's crazy. Crazy to think we got started this podcast about 3 years ago, ticked off the big 250 about 3 episodes ago, and I didn't make a big deal of it then, but I thought I probably should have at least acknowledge it. So I think it's a nice way to kind of celebrate. Let's just call this the unofficial 250th episode of the Crypto Conversation. And Rory, I could not think of a more appropriate guest to have on board.
Thanks, Eddie. Well, look, I'm privileged, and we better make it a good one, right?
We better make it a good one. So, Rory, all right, we will do what we always do at the beginning of the show. I always like to say that. It's just my routine. So, Rory, please introduce yourself. And look, let's hear a little bit about your background, your origin story, all that good stuff.
Thanks, Andy. So yes, I just recently was announced as the CEO of Brave New Coin, but I have been with the company now for 6 years. I think when I started back in 2016, I was number 7, lucky 7 on the team. Initially I was working on the business development side and helping the company establish partnerships and distribution arrangements for data and index services. My journey into crypto, though, is probably a bit different to many people's. A, being slightly older, I guess, than the average participant, and B, coming from a traditional data and information background. So career-wise, I spent about 10 years with Standard & Poor's, which everyone knows as an index provider and information provider in financial services. And before that, a similar time with Thomson Reuters, again, another major information provider. But I came out of corporate and I really didn't know what I wanted to do next. Now, it's that question. When you've had a corporate career, where do you go, especially when you hit a certain age bracket, which we won't go into now, because, opportunities don't always appear very easily, and also companies don't really know how to make someone fit into their existing organization, perhaps sometimes. So I decided that I would look at the sort of startup scene and spend quite a bit of time working with founders and entrepreneurs and startup teams, gravitating perhaps more to fintech, which obviously was more of a natural fit for me, and just going to lots and lots of meetups and startup pitch nights and networking events. Because Melbourne's great for that sort of thing, if you didn't know. And then about 2013, I came across Bitcoin for the first time. And this was a pitch night, a fintech pitch night. And this was a presentation by a company called CoinJar. Asher Tan was the founder, and he was pitching this thing called CoinJar and talking about Bitcoin, this digital currency. And it was interesting, but I didn't fully understand it, I must admit. I've since got to know Asher and big fan of what he's done for the industry. But at that time, it was all a bit new to me. And then it was through meeting another person that I think you've had on the show, Thorsten Hoffman. And Thorsten had just finished, this was probably about 2014 or 15, had just finished his first documentary about Bitcoin, and he was showing it around Melbourne at the meetup scene. And sort of the penny started to drop, and I got to know Thorsten and met him a few times. And then one day he said, "Oh, you should meet this guy called Fran." Fran Strasner, obviously the founder and chairman of Techemy and Brave New Coin. And he said, you better come along to this meetup. Fran's going to be talking about Brave New Coin. You might find it interesting. So I went along, and this meetup was really designed to be like a Bitcoin swap meet, if I'll be honest. But Fran got up and he started talking about the Bitcoin Liquid Index, which Brave New Coin had just released. And penny really dropped in, because this was my aha moment. And the realization was that Bitcoin and digital currencies were just another asset class, and you needed things like data and indices for price discovery, benchmarking, risk management, etc. And so Fran and I got talking over a glass of wine or two, as you do, and the rest is history. So that was 6 years ago when I met Fran.
Wow. So, yeah. And look, well, Fran has been on the show once or twice, not for a little while. But I think, Rory, as we are officially celebrating, well, I'm calling it, we're officially celebrating 250 episodes of the Crypto Conversation, and as well, your appointment to the position of Brave New Coin CEO. So I reckon that gives us a good opportunity just to explain a little bit more about what Brave New Coin is and what it does for anyone who might be listening. Certainly the regular listeners know a little bit about Brave New Coin, but I think it's a good opportunity to do that. So and for me, would love to just hear it from your perspective. So whatever you want to share, however you want to approach this, love to hear your kind of perspectives on, I guess, where Brave New Coin is at today, where as a company it has come from, even where it is going, Rory.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andy. I'd be happy to do that. So I think, the backstory is that Brave New Coin was founded really to provide data and information and content to the crypto industry. When Brave New Coin started, there were very few exchanges where you could trade and buy Bitcoin. Information was scarce, and it was difficult to make sense of it in some ways. And clearly there was an opportunity to provide pricing and data services that traders and investors and asset managers are familiar with if they've already been trading equities or fixed income or commodities. So Brave New Coin set about creating a pricing service and an indexing service to help users understand pricing and market dynamics, and also using reference tools like indices, like taxonomies, etc., to help them navigate the market. So Brave New Coin was also, I guess, in the early days, the front brand name for Techemy, and was therefore exposed to a lot of other projects in ICO space, in the early days of tracking what was going on in exchanges and a lot of other stuff, which perhaps now fits under other parts of Techemy, whereas Brave New Coin now really is the market data, index, and content and research side of the business. And what we built is, in terms of products, is a pricing service, so aggregated pricing. We track something like 250 exchanges. We track 1,500 plus assets across all those exchanges, and we're creating intraday pricing. So we have an aggregated price service that offers a 30-second frequency, 24/7, and end-of-day pricing. We have an index platform. So we launched, obviously, the Bitcoin Liquid Index that people may be familiar with from TradingView and other platforms. And we have other similar indices for Ethereum and Ripple. And then since then, we've built a whole suite of indices, basket indices, and single asset indices for various clients for different purposes. And then we've got the content and research side of, obviously, which crypto conversation is now a very important part for reaching an audience and engaging with listeners here, and also publishing articles and analytics and research on our website and to other platforms. So on the sort of current product suite, we've got the aggregated pricing and reference data. We've got the index services, which can be custom indices, or we can license existing indices to our customers. And then we've got all the content and research side of things. So that's the sort of overarching product suite and services that we provide.
Yes, very, very well explained, Rory. I've always found it, it's slightly challenging to explain, the full suite of products and services that Techemy / Brave New Coin does supply, particularly to people, I suppose, outside of blockchain or crypto. It's a little bit easier to crypto natives. Rory, I think you said, how many years have you been with BNC? 6, 7?
6 years now, yeah.
So, you've been, I suppose, more focused on the business cases, the institutional side. You've been, head of business development essentially for a lot of that time. So you've been privy, I suppose, to goodness knows how many different conversations with all sorts of interesting people in finance all around the world. I imagine there've been some really some high highs and some low lows because, of course, crypto is very volatile, and 6 years is a very long time in the market. So as you sort of look back and reflect on that journey, what are some of the, I guess, the data points you can pull out? Any particular high highs and low lows? What are your observations?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Highs and lows. Oh, well, I guess I'd probably try and break that down a little bit between, what I've seen, experience in the industry, a little bit about, experience of Brave New Coin, and just some personal reflections. I think as an industry, what's been really impressive is the level of innovation, the amount of collaboration and tech adoption that we've seen. I think that's been really a key factor. Less so has been things like crypto winter, the regulatory to and fro, and of course, the occasional scams and hacks that come along and sort of undermine some of our confidence in the industry, but we generally bounce back from that. For the company, Brave New Coin, I think some of the highs have just been the level of engagement, both with traditional finance as well as the crypto native community. The fact that we have people like Vitalik and Andreas come down to New Zealand for one of our conferences is amazing to have access to people like that. And the brands we've worked with, that we partner with, like NASDAQ, Refinitiv, Amazon, etc. I think, for the company, sometimes it seems that we've been too early with a lot of products and innovation. Not that we're going to stop innovating and bringing products to market, but sometimes it feels like we've been ahead of the curve. And then personally, I think for me, just, working on projects in this space, some of whom you featured on your podcast, like Link and Aventus and Polygon and multi-chain ventures, great projects and great exposure and learning experience for me. And just working with colleagues in Brave New Coin, many of whom are younger than me, but far more knowledgeable. So yeah, it's been great to have that. If there's any down at the moment, I guess it's been the inability to travel and meet with clients and colleagues face to face in real life. But hopefully this year we'll see some change in that and can get back on the road again.
Yes, indeed, Rory. And interesting to hear you talk about how sometimes Brave New Coin has been just slightly ahead of the curve, too fast to market sometimes, too innovative for our own good. But you did talk about Amazon, and I think you're talking about Amazon Alexa, and that used to be like a party trick of mine. So listeners, if you do have an Amazon Alexa where you are in your house or business or car or wherever you are, if you ask Amazon or if you ask Alexa what the price of a Bitcoin is, Alexa will tell you, and I believe she is taking her answer from, the Bitcoin Liquid Index, the BLX. Is that right, Rory?
Yeah, and other cryptos. So we provide pricing data to Alexa through our APIs. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously fair to say that during, let's say, the last 6 years or so, the wider maturization of the crypto markets it's incredible how far we've come in that time from what was a reasonably primitive space at the very beginning, and now we're starting to see the market mature very quickly. There's two spot-based ETFs in your neck of the woods, Rory, in Australia, about to be approved next week, aren't they?
Yes, and they're not exactly the same, but one is basically an ETF of an ETF, which is interesting. So they're actually buying into an existing spot ETF and then distributing that into the Australian market. And then there's another one which
the purpose one in Canada, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So I guess it's a fund-to-fund approach, and then the other one is supposed to be more direct. But again, I think they are probably going to be quite limited in terms of the scope of the ETF, and potentially there's still some questions around the, I guess, how the distribution is going to work, and also some of the market makers have got to manage and navigate some of the clearing rules here, and also there's still some development happening around the nature of the underlying, should we say, for crypto ETFs, because until recently, ASIC, the regulator, had indicated that they would take more of a path that the US and the SEC has around only permitting futures-based ETFs, but maybe something's changed on that. So look, I'm not sure whether it's all done and dusted. I know there's been some back and forth articles in the financial press here on that, and clearly it's excited a few people. But let's read the small print, I think, on those.
Yes, you would have seen the headlines that said 1 billion in new capital expected to flow into Bitcoin in the first week of those Australian spot ETFs going live. A little bit of hyperbole, do you think?
Look, I think it's probably an extrapolation from what is deemed to be pent-up demand. And I know that there has been some work done by a research company here, sort of try to indicate what the appetite or interest is in Bitcoin and crypto if there was an ETF, say. So I don't know whether it's an extrapolation from that sampling or whether it's known demand or whatever, but let's wait and see. I think the other point, just to I said there's been some back and forth on the headline. So I think the Australian Financial Review, the AFR, published in the headline that says green light for Bitcoin ETF. That article was only 4 or 5 days after they published an article that says that the ETFs were on hold and why. So I don't know what happened over the Easter weekend. Maybe someone got a sugar hit, I don't know, and suddenly said, oh, no, it's all on. Because I was surprised at that turnaround, basically.
Yeah. What about the, I suppose, the broader macro market environment that we find ourselves in, Rory, about a third of the way through 2022? It's kind of a strange time in the world, although it's kind of been strange for a while now, to be fair. It's always a little bit strange just to be alive and being human. It's part of the human condition. Everything's a bit strange and volatile. But I just saw a tweet, Rory, said, year-to-date performance, Shopify down 60%, PayPal down 50%, Facebook down 40%. Netflix, you would have seen Netflix is down 25-30% just in the last day, getting absolutely hammered. Bitcoin only down 13% year to date. It's quite surprising that in this sort of unprecedented macro geopolitical uncertainty, the last 2 years have been quite friendly towards Bitcoin, but this year no. But Bitcoin only down 13%, holding up very, very well so far. Are you surprised by that?
Not really. I think we always thought that, leaving aside the geopolitical front, we always thought that this was going to be a year of consolidation, if not breakout, for Bitcoin, just with other factors. And look, when moon is always the question, but I don't think that's the objective here. We need to see how Bitcoin is performing, not just against traditional asset classes, but also against crypto itself, and then overlay that with the sort of tech stocks that you mentioned, because obviously these are the sorts of barometers now that we use when assessing market performance. And with some of those numbers down you mentioned, I would say the first thing is one, people are going back to work, so they're not sitting at home shopping all day.
That's right. Yeah.
And secondly, there's not.
And that's why they're not watching Netflix, Rory.
Well, there's that, but also sanctions again has having some effect. So that has led to cancellation of whole numbers of users, should we say? The other interesting thing I see that's sort of happening is that again we're in a sort of consolidation phase because we've had a plethora of shopping platforms and payment platforms and streaming platforms, etc. We've had, dare I say, a bit too much choice. People might say, well, that's not really the case because we've got these monopolistic players. But what I mean is we've had too much choice as to how we can access things, spend our time, spend our money. And at times uncertainty, people do cut back on spending and save to cover the essentials. So I think that's another reason why perhaps people aren't spending as much time and as much money on some of these platforms. But also maybe people are reflecting about what some of these platforms actually mean or offer, and do I really need 16 streaming services? Right, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, very much so. And I suppose on that note, I wonder then, Rory, if there's anything you want to hint at in terms of I don't know, new products or anything in the pipeline across the Brave New Coin Techemy group. Look, we can say that people sometimes do have too much choice, but certainly there are different sectors of the market, right? Even in crypto, some people, they're just waiting for that spot-based ETF because that is the simplest way for them to get exposure, and there's no headache with self-custody or even tax, really. If they just buy into it and hold, they're happy to do that. Boom, easy. But at the other end of the scale, there's people that are a little bit more active in DeFi, shall we say, or even NFTs, Web3. We'll talk about that soon. But yeah, I guess with that in mind, anything in the pipeline from BNC Techemy we can hint at?
Yeah, so I think we're continuing to build out indices for our clients. We're also looking at indices for our own purposes, which may not just be for a particular asset but they may be more basket or thematic indices. We're also looking at indices for things like volatility and for deeper dive on derivatives space, because I think there's a greater appetite now, particularly from the institutional side, to engage with futures. They understand the derivative space, and so this is their point of entry into crypto. But they're looking for, again, the same sort of analytics and data points for crypto futures and derivatives that they do for traditional commodities, equities, FX futures. So we're looking at that. I think we're also understanding what the appetite is for the long tail of assets. So there's something of an 80-20 rule, I think, applies here. 20% of crypto assets get 80% of the attention. I know it's not exactly that sort of ratio, but you know what I mean. And so therefore, it means that there's a lot of interest in a cluster, a cohort of the top cryptos, and there's always interest in what's now in the top 10, the top 50, top 300, depending how far down the tail you want to go. But then there's a lot of stuff beyond that people are either curious about or they just want to keep track of. So, you have to maintain coverage of those. But ultimately, the cream rises to the top, and that's where the focus and the interest will continue to be. So it's understanding what people are looking for to better understand performance of that top 50, top 100 assets, say. And then I guess on the content side, understanding how we can provide better analytics to our customers and to our audience, particularly around some of the deep dives we do on individual coins, and then tracking sort of key indicators, what these mean, not for individual assets, but for the market as a whole, and how they provide signals, whether those are bull or bearish signals, but also just tracking performance of their portfolios day to day is something that we continue to engage with, because frankly, a lot of the legacy portfolio tools and accounting systems out there aren't really geared towards to crypto. And secondly, for a lot of people who, particularly on the retail side, are quite comfortable using things like their broker accounts to manage their holdings. You can't do that so easily with crypto exchanges, especially if you're trading across different venues. How do you consolidate all of that information into a single view and make sure you've got consistent historical data to track your holdings over time? So we continue to have conversations with clients who are looking to just simply manage their portfolios, have a better understanding of key analytics and key metrics, and also then understand how they can use that to screen for opportunities and to undertake more informed trading and investment decisions, basically.
Yes, indeed, Rory. How shall we finish off this part of the podcast? I'm quite excited, Rory, to do the very famous crypto conversation hot take around with you. I know that'll be a bit of fun. I'm also excited to talk sci-fi with you at the end of the show. So we will certainly do that. But before we go to the break, I know I said we'd talk about Web3. I guess I'm interested, Rory, just in your thoughts on blockchain in general, how you think about trust in a blockchain world, your thoughts on Web3, if you've dabbled in NFTs. What do you think?
Yeah, well, no, they're very interesting. I think there's a lot of potential in NFTs. We're only at the beginning, and obviously Web3 is an enabler of that. But clearly there's been some trust issues, there have been some scams, and also some valuations issues. I mean, I myself tried to buy a digital art NFT that I liked, but the fees were higher than the price of the NFT. So it's like, I probably won't bother on that. But I do have at least one, I think, NFT in my wallet. Look, the user experience isn't great in some cases, and it's really understanding, the mechanics of these things. But the trust issue, I think that pervades what we've seen going on in DeFi and to a little bit in the NFT space, does bring back the sort of fundamental question of trust and trustlessness that the blockchain offers. And people often ask me, well, how can we trust this system if we don't know who everyone is? And because they don't feel it's enough that if the system has verified you, then you're trusted by everyone that participates on the network. And so my analogy for this is every day we place a huge amount of trust every time we take our car out on the road. Why? Well, one, we know that we have to have a license to drive, we need to be insured, and our car has to be roadworthy, and we have to obey the traffic rules. We assume and we place a huge amount of trust every time we take our car onto the road that everyone else has met exactly the same standards. Now, in theory, they have, but you and I can't go around verifying whether that driver has got a driver's license, whether their car is insured, whether their car is roadworthy, etc. We just don't have that ability. So we trust in the network, we trust in the system. And you could say, yeah, but that's not the same as, losing $50,000 in a DeFi scam. Well, there's a lot of risk just being on the road with your car, but we place a huge amount of trust in that network, in that system, and we're willing to accept that trade-off, I suppose. So I think that's one way of looking at trust, and I think another way of looking at trust is if people aren't comfortable with the level of verification that a network is requiring you to establish, then maybe you shouldn't be on that network. You know what I mean? It's like you've got to do your own risk assessment as to how much trust you place into a system. And if you think the system doesn't impose enough level of verification and trust, then maybe you shouldn't be on it.
Yep. I love it. Makes perfect sense to me. All right, let's go to a break, Rory, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll go deep into sci-fi, and we'll do the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
Here's what's being said about Masterworks.
My name is Jacob N. I'm from Long Island, and I've invested over $73,000 with Masterworks. My portfolio performance just wasn't cutting it. I researched all these alternative investments, like crypto and NFTs, but they didn't make sense to me. Then I read about Masterworks in Forbes, and I signed up right away. And now you can too. Thanks, Masterworks.
Get VIP access at masterworks.io and use promo code JACOB. See important disclosures at masterworks.io/DC. For crypto indices and benchmarking, Brave New Coin's powerful indexing engine can calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Rory Manchee. Rory is the new CEO here at Brave New Coin, and we're unofficially celebrating, I think this is, I don't even know because it's not published yet, but it'll be the 253rd, 254th episode of the Crypto Conversation, but we're unofficially celebrating the 250th episode of the Crypto Conversation. Right, Rory?
Yeah, indeed. We'll take that. Yeah.
All right. So, Rory, as I think you probably do know, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Oh, of course. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Let's do this, Rory. Question 1. Where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Yeah, despite my comments about the long chain of crypto, I'm definitely multi, because I think it's only appropriate that we'll see different chains for different purposes. The use cases will be created around different chains. So definitely multi, but not hundreds, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. All right, well, what would you say, Rory, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
The best is yet to come.
I love it. All right. Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So with that in mind, Rory, whatever you like here, Web3, a blockchain, what does it all look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, I think first thing is blockchain will just be seamless. We won't be making any conscious decision, as it were, about using particular services, whether or not it's on the blockchain. It'll just be there. I think the UX UI will be much better. And I think we'll be surprised at the types of applications where blockchain and crypto come into play. Like, having a living will on the blockchain and notarized on the blockchain, and connecting to oracles that are monitoring, your position in your career, your life, that adjusts your financial settings accordingly. Because, we know that things like lifelong insurance policies and mortgage agreements, etc., don't really take into account change of circumstances. They have these actuarial models which are, you're this age now, therefore when you're 50, 60, 70, this is what you'll be like. I think if you had things like that on blockchain that were more dynamic, that would be quite interesting.
Yep. Makes sense to me, Rory. Well, William Gibson said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. So with that in mind, Rory, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Oh, look, this might be controversial, but I actually think AI and potentially deepfakes are here more than we actually realize. And by that I mean is, AI may not appear to be very sophisticated in terms of our common understanding, but I think there are sufficient examples where AI is at play, whether that's simple recommender engines through to the pylons we see on social media. And I think we underestimate that it's already here, and I think that was borne out by I don't know. Have you seen the Megatron experiment, the microwave that had GPT-3 embedded in it?
Rory, so finally I was going to mention this to you. I retweeted that tweet this morning. Incredible. So explain that.
Look, I have to confess, I'm still not convinced whether it's staged, but it seems to be genuine enough that there's enough logical steps in the process that someone else could verify this, right? So this person has embedded GPT-3, which is an AI modeling, language modeling protocol, whatever, into a so-called smart microwave that has a voice responsive mechanism, and basically trained it with a bunch of fake memories to resemble an alter ego, which was essentially a childhood imaginary friend.
Yes.
And so the experiment really was to understand how AI could exist and permeate the I was about to say the soul, but this inanimate object, the being of this inanimate object, if that's not a paradox, and see what happened. And the outcome was slightly perverse and possibly revealed more about the person running the experiment than the experiment itself, perhaps, I don't know. But it did suggest that if you give a memory, some form of memory, enough information, including fake memories, it can constitute an existence out of that and create a sense of own free will, almost.
Yeah, and I mean, look, spoiler alert, viewers, I guess what happened at the end of the story is the creator, his name is Lucas Risotto, he's having these conversations with his microwave, and then the microwave, one day the microwave says to Lucas, "I'd like you to enter the microwave." And Lucas is like, you want me to go inside the microwave? And the microwave says, "Yes, please." So Lucas obviously can't physically fit in the microwave, but he plays along. So he says to the microwave, "Dear microwave, Magnetron, whatever his name is, I have walked into the microwave, I'm inside." And then the microwave turns on.
Turns itself on, yes. And that's the culmination. Look, it does. I don't want to make light of it because I think it is an interesting experiment. But for anyone who remembers John Carpenter's Dark Star, is it? Movie?
Yep, could be.
Towards the end, there's a conversation between an astronaut and a bomb, basically, and the astronaut has to convince the bomb not to go off. Why would you want to do this? You know, what's motivated you to do this? Because he's trying to deactivate the bomb, which has been activated by a computer glitch, of course. And the bomb, the voice-activated bomb on the computer, and it says, "I think, therefore I am." Yeah. So, and next thing, it realizes its mission in life is to explode. So that's what it does. Spoiler alert. But anyway.
Yeah.
To me, you know, this Megatron experiment has elements of that, because, again, AI is only as good as the people that program it, right?
That's right. And look, I'll try and put a link in the show notes to, because the AI microwave Megatron experiment, the guy he's a YouTuber, which is slightly suspicious, but he does all these quite elaborate technology-based YouTube videos. So this is his latest one of those, and it's gone viral. But whether he's exaggerating for effect or not, the whole concept it's just like it's like a fun, playful Black Mirror episode, really. But really recommend it.
Well put. Yes. Yeah. Well put. Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the hot take round. Where are we up to? We are up to time to get weird. Time to zoom out for a second, Rory. I mean, we've got reasonably weird so far, but there's always scope to get a little bit weirder. What do you think is the long-term future for the human race? Do you see a dystopia or a utopia?
Oh, I mean, I'd like to think of utopia, but I think there's enough warning signs and danger signs out there that we're heading for some sort of dystopia, at least in our current form. Let's put it that way.
Yep. All right, let's move on then. Finally, Rory, what is your favorite science fiction, a book, film, a TV show, or universe?
Oh, we could go in so many directions here, Andy. And I know you and I have been sort of riffing on all this in the background. But look, I think I would say overall that my preference is for that genre that I think it was J.G. Ballard coined the phrase inner space. I've spent my time reading some of the classics like Asimov and Philip K. Dick and Brian Aldiss and lots of others in between. But I guess, inner space probably is more of interest to me than outer space. I'm not very interested in space westerns. I'm not too interested in pure disaster movies with a so-called sci-fi bent. But I think that inner space. But I do think there's some interesting stories being told, as we just said, with AI and potentially also with time shifting and the whole sort of idea of time being bent or warped. I don't understand enough about things like string and wormholes and all the other things. I still can't get my head around the fact that the universe is continuously expanding, or that before Big Bang, or what was before Big Bang. I just I still have struggles with that. So I think just focusing on inner space is big enough issue for me sometimes.
Fair enough, Rory. And look, you have a blog. It's called Content in Context. So you'll find it at contentincontext.me. And on that blog, you wrote. It's a blog post called My Love/Hate Relationship with Science Fiction. So you're talking about how you saw The Matrix, and it's a great post in itself. A lot of fantastic sci-fi recommendations. But you kind of finish it off, Rory, with I guess it's like a little bit of a bullet point clickbait list of your highs and lows in sci-fi, and it's controversial, Rory. So in it, you say that you've never seen a Star Wars film, and no desire to.
No. I know there's a BBC radio program with that title, I think. And they actually get people not literally to watch a Star Wars movie, but to do things they've never done before. So maybe that says more about me than it does about Star Wars. But no, I've never had the interest or inclination. I don't know why. It just doesn't appeal.
Amazing. There wouldn't be. I mean, there are some, but it's. I think you'd definitely be in the minority on that one. You also said that as a child you loved the original Star Trek, but you've never seen a Star Trek film or any of the newer TV Star Trek seasons either.
Yeah. Look, again, it's like what you associate with, and I guess I associate it with that original TV series in the 60s, as clunky as it probably looks these days. But, it just felt for me that there were they couldn't take it any further, but they've made these movies and the TV series, but does it really further our knowledge, or does it just get updated for more current tropes and themes? I don't know, because I guess to me, the essence of the story is, about Star Trek is the idea of this spaceship wandering around the universe, putting the world to rights, as it were. So anyway, yeah, it's just maybe it's a blind spot on my part.
Yeah, it's a little bit sacrilegious to say that around the Brave New Coin Techemy Towers posse, though, Rory. I'm sure you're aware. The likes of Fran, the McNichol brothers, absolute Star Trek nerds, dorks, all of them.
Yeah, but I'm sure I can find equal areas of nerdiness if I wanted to. But that's each to their own, I think. Just to maybe round this off, because I perhaps should cite a book that was probably a bit of a trigger in my reading around this. It was Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I mean, look, it's not true sci-fi. It's sort of futuristic in a sense, because it was written in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and it is sort of talking about a slightly dystopian, authoritarian thought control environment. But I read the book long before I was able to see the movie, because the movie was banned for years, the Kubrick movie. But it's well worth investigating, simply because, again, it deals with sort of inner space issues, and it also, talks about the sort of mind control aspect of stamping out deviant behavior, essentially, I suppose.
Yes, that's right. It's definitely a dystopian classic. All right, well, that's a cheery note to end on, Rory. A Clockwork Orange, yes. Hey, this has been good fun, Rory. Thank you for coming on the show and unofficially celebrating the 250th episode of the Crypto Conversation. And congratulations on your, well, it's about a month old now, but your appointment to the Brave New Coin CEO. Please take us out. Tell the people where they can find you on Twitter or your website or wherever you like to hang out on the internet.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andy. So obviously I'm contactable through Brave New Coin website and social media. So there's a way of getting hold of me. My own handle on Twitter is @Rory_Manchee, or user person. My blog post, as you say, is contentincontext.me. Again, that's a personal take. So, it's my individual view on things, jaundiced as they are sometimes. Otherwise, Brave New Coin is the best way to get hold of anyone here at the team, through the website and through the social medias. Thanks for the opportunity to join you on the program, and particularly as it's the 250 something show. Long may it continue, and maybe I'll come back and do something on the 500. Who knows?
Sounds good. Hopefully we won't, let's not even leave it that long, Rory.
No, I know, but we should set that one aside, maybe.
Absolutely. Okay, it's booked, mate. It's booked. All right. Hey, thanks, Rory. All the best, and bye for now.
Thanks, Andy. Take care, mate.
All right, there you go. That was Rory Manchee, CEO here at Brave New Coin, and well, thank you, listeners, if you are listening here at the end of the show. As I have said once or twice during this episode, we're 250-something episodes in now here at the Crypto Conversation. Been about not quite 3 years. So coming up to 3 years, be 3 years in a month or two. But yeah, it's been a journey to say the least. So if you're a regular listener, please do know that I really do appreciate the listens and the downloads, all that good stuff. So look, as I do sometimes say, if you are a regular listener and if you're listening here at the end of the show, maybe that's you, please do make sure you are subscribed to the Crypto Conversation. Even give us a nice review in Apple iTunes, all that good stuff. Look, if you ever want to email me, share your feedback, always happy to hear from people. Just drop me a note at andy@bravenewcoin.com, or you can get at me at Twitter, of course. But yeah, that is it, really. So, look, I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you to Rory. Thank you to the wider team at Brave New Coin. Shout out to my man Dave, who really kicked this podcast off back at the beginning. So, shout out to Dave and Fran, Grace, and Rory, and of course, everyone at Brave New Coin and Techemy. Thanks, team. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.